A boy walked into a field with his goats. He never walked out. 3 days later, a man sat in a roadside cafe and calmly told police exactly what happened to him. No lawyer, no warning, just a confession. Police thought the case was closed. The evidence seemed airtight, a witness, a body, even a DNA match. So why, years later, did a judge look at all of it and set that same man free? Welcome to Verdict Files, where we break down real court cases to see how justice actually works. Here's what you need to know. A 13-year-old boy, who we'll call Alex, went missing while herding animals near his home. Days later, a young laborer, we'll call him David, was linked to his disappearance. On paper, this looks like an open and shut case, a confession, a body, a DNA match. But one missing piece of paperwork and one contradiction inside a doctor's report would end up unraveling the entire prosecution. This is the story of how a death sentence got undone, not by a twist of fate, but by the rules of evidence themselves. It was a quiet morning in a small farming community. Alex, 13 years old, headed out at sunrise with a small herd of goats, like he did most days. By evening, the goats came home. Alex did not. His father, we'll call him Adam, searched through the night and the next day. Nothing, no sign of his son anywhere. 3 days passed. Then a local man, we'll call him Omar, came forward. He told Adam he'd seen Alex 2 days earlier walking with another man, David, heading toward a neighboring village. But what he did next is why this ever ended up in a courtroom. Adam brought that tip straight to the local police post. With an officer, we'll call him Officer Reyes, Adam went looking for David. They found him sitting in a roadside cafe in the next village over, as if nothing had happened. Officer Reyes asked him one simple question: where is the boy? What happened in the next 60 seconds would decide a man's life and, years later, decide whether Pakistan's justice system got it right. According to police, David hesitated and then admitted it. He said he had assaulted Alex and caused his death. He said he had left the boy's body in a pond in a nearby village. David led the officer and the witnesses straight to that pond. The boy's body was recovered from the water that same day. A formal police report was filed. A detective, we'll call him Detective Cole, took over the case. He arranged for a medical exam and days later for a DNA test. The lab results came back. Internal swabs taken from the boy's body were said to match David's DNA profile. For the trial court, that seemed to be the final word. In 2019, David was convicted. The sentence: death for the killing, life in prison for the assault, 3 more years for concealing the body. David's team appealed immediately, and that appeal would sit unresolved for 4 years. And just when you think you know who is lying, the case file reveals something no one expected. When the case reached the High Court, David's lawyers didn't argue that the crime never happened. They argued the case against their client was full of holes. Their first point: Alex vanished on day 1. Nobody called the police until day 3. Omar, the witness who claimed to have seen Alex with David, lived less than a mile away from the boy's own home and knew the family well, so why the silence? Their second point was even sharper. When Omar first spoke to police, he never gave an exact time for the sighting. But in court, 2 years later, he suddenly remembered it precisely: 4 p.m. But the defense had one question the prosecution could not answer. If that detail was true, why wasn't it in the original statement? Their third point targeted the confession itself. Under the law, a confession made directly to police cannot be used in court. Only the part that leads to a new piece of physical evidence, like the location of a body, is allowed in. But even that narrow exception has one requirement. Officers are supposed to write up a formal record, on the spot, describing exactly what the suspect pointed out. In this case, no such record was ever created, not by the first officer, not by the detective who came later. Pause for a second. If a case rested only on a verbal admission with no paper trail, would you trust it? Comment below. The prosecution pushed back hard. They argued the delay was explained, the witnesses had no reason to lie, and the DNA match sealed the case regardless of paperwork. This is where the case fell apart completely, and it had nothing to do with witnesses lying. It came down to basic physical evidence. Police said the body had been submerged in a pond for 3 days, but when the medical examiner testified, he described no wet clothing, no water damage, and none of the skin wrinkling doctors expect after days in water. In other words, the physical evidence didn't match the story of where the body was found. Then came a second contradiction. 3 different witnesses, the father, the first officer, and the detective, each gave a different account of who actually pulled the body from the water. And then, the biggest blow of all, the DNA. The doctor who performed the original autopsy never once mentioned collecting the internal swabs that were supposedly tested. Those samples simply appeared in the evidence chain weeks later, with no explanation of where they came from or who handled them in between. If that sounds familiar, it's because the same problem sank one of the most famous criminal trials in American history, the O.J. Simpson case. Improperly handled evidence, even when it points to guilt, can become worthless in court. A DNA match means nothing if no one can prove where the sample actually came from. The High Court judges laid out 3 separate failures. First, the eyewitness account of David and Alex being seen together didn't hold up. It came too late, and the exact details changed over time. Second, the recovery of the body could not legally be tied to David's actions because no officer ever documented the moment he supposedly pointed to that pond. Under the law, that missing paperwork made the recovery legally worthless as proof against him. Third, the DNA evidence, on its own, is only ever allowed to support other proof, never to carry a case by itself. And here, with no explanation of how the samples were collected or stored, even that support collapsed. With every piece of the case undermined, the judges ruled the prosecution had failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. The conviction was overturned. David was acquitted. His death sentence was not confirmed. He was ordered released. Now, this story, that feels like it could happen almost anywhere, this case actually comes from Pakistan, heard by the Lahore High Court. For privacy, we've changed the names and the setting. So here's the real question. How would a court in the US or UK have handled this same evidence? A confession made directly to police with no lawyer present and no recording? In the US, that would likely be thrown out entirely under Miranda rules, unless the suspect was properly warned first. The narrow exception used in this case, where only what it led to counts, exists in some form in both systems, but US and UK courts are typically even stricter about requiring a documented, witnessed process before any of it reaches a jury. And on the DNA, this is where the systems agree completely. In the US, UK, and Pakistan alike, a DNA match is only as strong as the chain of custody behind it. Break that chain, and even a perfect match becomes meaningless in court. That's exactly what happened in the O.J. Simpson trial, and it's exactly what happened here. The lesson isn't that the courts got it wrong. It's that circumstantial cases are built like a chain, and a single missing link, whether it's a form that was never filled out or a sample no one can account for, can be enough to change everything. A boy lost his life. A man was convicted, sentenced to death, and years later walked free. Not because a judge doubted a tragedy occurred, but because the proof against him didn't hold up to legal scrutiny. Do you think the court made the right call? If you were the judge, would the missing paperwork and the DNA gap have been enough to convince you? If you found this case as thought-provoking as we did, hit like, subscribe, and leave your verdict in the comments. Based on a real public court judgment, names and identifying details have been changed for privacy. Full case reference in the description.